It's time for Tales Around the Teapot. Just for you.
This is Home is Where the Heart Is. This is a story that was inspired by one of our teapots moving house. And they were very, very often being told people were coming to visit, to look around, to have a nosy, as we say, but never offer then. So, and when she told us about the one part of it where one of her neighbours decided that she wanted to come and have a look in, because she'd never been invited in the house before. So that inspired me to write this story. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. It's called Home is Where the Heart Is. Okay, thank you. See you this afternoon then. Who's that, dear? Mabel inquired, wiping her wet hands on the corner of a pinny. Martin from the estate agents. Bringing someone to view the house this afternoon at 4 p.m. Oh, good. We may be in luck with a quick sale, Derek. But it's a neighbour that lives on the street. There's no other sale sign, Mabel irritatingly commented. I know. That's what I said. But Martin told me they are coming to view our house. And if they like, we'll put theirs up. Cheeky so-and-sos. He didn't say who it was by any chance. No, just an interested neighbour. Nosy buggers, most like, Mabel retorted as she stormed back into the kitchen. Well, they'll have short shrift with me when they arrive, if they are leading us a dance. Mabel carried a tray with tea and chocolate biscuits and placed it on the tiny table between the two comfy armchairs. Now, Mabel, dear, don't be too hasty. You never know. They may want to move into a bigger property. After all, our house is a 4-bedroomed with an extra bathroom. Perhaps you are right, Derek. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I wonder who it could be, though. Nosy Nellie at number 11 has been itching to get an invite since we had our conservatory rebuilt. And Peggy Sprouts, well, she'll be all over in a flash if she sees anyone she knows, just to be bloody nosy. She sat and sipped her tea in silence, her thoughts doing whirlwinds in her head. Derek, meanwhile, sat and enjoyed his much-needed drink. As 4 o'clock approached, Mabel fussed with the ornaments and flicked her duster haphazardly around. Not that it needed doing. Mabel was very house-proud, and every day she cleaned from top to bottom, whilst humming some God-forsaken hymn, much to Derek's annoyance when he was trying to sit and read his paper in peace. She peered through the pristine white lace curtains. Sit down, dear. They'll be here any moment. Don't make it look as if you are too eager. Derek lifting his eyes to the ceiling and chewed at his bottom lip, irritation bit deep in his throat. He had to be careful what he said, or Mabel would go off on one, and all hell would let loose. The doorbell rang. Its melodic tones resonated over the house. Both hurried to the front door. In his haste, Derek knocked the large glassed elephant hung precariously on the edge of the hall table with his elbow. Down it went with a resounding crash onto the marble tiled floor and smashing into smithereens, sending shreds of glass in all directions. The trunk somehow had managed to still be in one piece, bounced on the highly polished tile to fly upwards to hit the hall mirror. Full pelt. Another resounding crash followed the first, amid screams and shrieks, as Derek and Mabel tried desperately to avoid the bombardment of glass attacking them. A sliver caught Derek's left leg. Blood gushed down his grey flannel trousers to pool in his moccasin slipper. He fell with a loud groan onto the bottom stair and managed to fish a clean handkerchief from his pocket to press on the wound. Mabel's neatly grey permed hair, now a tussle of rag ends, was covered in particles of glass. She ferociously rubbed her bloodied hands into her scalp, making things worse. A large shard pierced her chest, but she was oblivious. She crumpled onto the floor, her cries now a low keening. Poppy, their beloved poodle, on hearing the commotion and thinking that his beloved mistress was being attacked, rushed into the hall, only to skid on her tummy in the pool of bloody glass that pierced her smooth, soft inners, and she joined the mess on the floor. Mabel crawled to Poppy to cradle her into her own body. She began to whisper gentle, soothing sounds, despite her sharp intakes of painful breath. Poppy was her baby. She'd die for her. Huge sobs escaped her grim, clown-like mouth that escalated down from her brown panda eyes, whilst her white, shocked face barely recognising anything. Meanwhile, Martin, the estate agent, on hearing the sounds and screams, summoned the police and ambulance, telling them it was urgent, as he wasn't sure if it was a murder. He nervously peered through the slit of the letterbox and was horrified to see what looked like a horror film on a movie set. His brain was in disbelief at the sight. Derek lay unconscious, sprawled across the bottom stairway, with his ginger-haired head wedged in the stairlift's mechanics, or so it seemed. Mabel, half sitting, leaned against the wall of a bloody rag object clutched to her, whilst her legs, like a half-set jelly, covered in red sauce. Her eyes were open, but when he cried out to her, he had no response. He turned away quickly as his stomach did somersaults and disposed of its entire contents over his immaculate suit. His client, meanwhile, had decided to walk down the garden and inspect the garage and its contents, quite unaware of the tragedy going on inside the house. He just assumed they were being rather rude to keep them waiting. Not that it bothered him. He had no intentions of buying this sad property in its half-tidy estate. He was just here for a peek view, with intentions of perhaps, if there was anything valuable, to come back at a later date to relieve the house owners of their property. His fellow thieves had managed to collect quite a few lists of good properties in the area already. The lights and sirens of the police and ambulance arrived, alerted him suddenly that something was going on. He quickly jumped over the wooden back gate into the next door's garden. He could see him standing out in the street, agog at the goings-on in the quiet neighbourhood, then running hell for leather into the busy streets and as far away as he could. The police broke down the front door and assessed the situation, realised that it wasn't a police matter, began to assist as best they could, whilst the paramedics took control of the couple. Martin was treated for shock at the scene and allowed to go home. His viewer mysteriously left and never returned to ask about another visit. Poppy was taken to the local vet, who patched her up. It was more superficial after all the blood was cleaned off her. Derek and Mabel were taken to the nearest hospital, where the wounds were cleaned and stitched and endured a 10-day stay, then recovering at home. A month later, Mabel surveyed the newly furnished hall and stairway with a sigh. They had decided to take the house off the market. She held Derek's hand tightly. "Well, darling, I think these last few weeks have been a wake-up call for me." She turned to him. "My priorities are now you and me, not having a better house in a better area. Home is where the heart is, and mine is here." Derek, teary-eyed, just nodded as they slowly made their way into the lounge to sit and enjoy their hot tea and chocolate biscuits. Pity though, we never found out which nosy neighbour wanted to come and see. Still, they've all had a good reason to call lately, haven't they? Mabel reflected as she picked a speck of dust from her pinny.
Oh, that was lovely. Oh, how soothing. Oh, my goodness.